This is the stack of paper that we made in our little after coffee hour project last week. You'll notice when you receive your piece that it has glitter in it. I think the glitter is the most important part. So remember to not only take in all that is said, take in the glitter. We need as much sparkle in our lives as possible. So I invite our service assistants who handed out communion to come forward. So find a comfortable position. Relax your arms and legs, your feet and hands. With your eyes open or closed, consider the piece of paper before you. Lovingly handmade by your friends here in this church, as you listen to the words of Thích Nhất Hạnh paper meditation. He said, "The sheet of paper is there because it has been born sometime in the past when it was produced by a paper company. And as we can establish a birth certificate for the sheet of paper, I certify that the sheet of paper was born at that moment of that day, of that month, of that year." But if you look deeply into the nature of that sheet of paper, you can discover that the sheet of paper has never been born. Because to be born means from nothing you become something. And this is not born from nothing. Before it manifested itself as a sheet of paper, it had been many things else. It had been a tree. Can you see? It had been the sunshine, the rain, the cloud, the trees, the earth. So many things. And you also, before you were born from your parents, you had been many things. You cannot say that before your birth you did not exist. That's not true. The moment we call birth is only a moment of continuation. So looking deeply at the sheet of paper, you see the sheet of paper continues to be a leaf, a tree, a cloud, the sunshine, and many things. When we look into ourselves, we can see that we have been a mountain inside. We have a river inside. We have trees inside. We have rocks inside. It's not only that we have been a tree, a rock, a mountain, a river in our past life, but we continue to be a tree, a rock, a rabbit, a deer, and the water in this very moment. It cannot be true that you did not exist before your conception. You carry with you the whole cosmos. We give thanks for these words of wisdom and grace. Take one final breath and return. In the quiet practice of Plum Village, the late Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh often held up a simple sheet of paper and said to his students, "If you are a poet, you will quite clearly see that there is a cloud floating in this sheet of paper." This teaching, known as the meditation on interbeing, is more than a lesson in ecology. It is a profound spiritual lesson on the nature of reality, the illusion of separation, and the sacred architecture of existence. To look at a piece of paper through the eyes of Thich Nhat Hanh is to look in the face of God, the Tao, the infinite. It is to call to move from the narrow confines of self into the expansive truth of our connection to all things. His message begins with the cloud. Without the cloud, there is no rain. Without rain, trees cannot grow. Without the trees, we cannot make paper. Therefore, the cloud is not outside the paper. It inter-is. It exists simultaneously with the paper. In our lives, we often suffer because we feel isolated. We see ourselves as solitary islands, adrift in a cold and indifferent universe. But the paper reminds us that we are all made of non-self elements. Just as the paper is made of clouds, sunshine, and earth, we are made of our ancestors, our teachers, the food we ate this morning, and the air we breathe right now. To see the cloud in the paper is to realize that nothing can exist by itself alone. We can only interbe. We can only be interconnected with everything. This is the death of loneliness. When we realize that the entire cosmos is supporting our existence, in this very moment, our gratitude becomes our form of worship. Thich Nhat Hanh's meditation goes even deeper. He invites us to see the logger who cut the tree. To see the logger, we must see the logger's parents. To see the logger, we must see the bread the logger ate for breakfast. To see the bread, we must see the wheat and the farmer. this symbolism challenges our judgments. We so often live in a world of us versus them. So much so right now. Of the sacred versus the profane. The loving versus the hating. The seen versus the ignored. But in the sheet of paper, the logger is as essential as the sunshine. The mundane labor of the farmer is as holy as the rain. This teaches us radical inclusivity. For if we remove the logger, the paper vanishes. If we remove the other from our lives, even those we find difficult, the fabric of our own reality begins to fray. The spiritual path is not about retreating into a private holiness, but about recognizing the holiness in the vast, messy web of human labor and connection. One of the most misunderstood concepts in Eastern spirituality is emptiness. When we say a cup is empty, it usually means it contains nothing. But Thích Nhất Hạnh used the paper to redefine this. He taught that the paper is empty of a separate self, but full of everything else. It is full of the sun, full of the forest, the minerals, the glitter, and the space that allowed the tree to grow. This is the central paradox of the spiritual life. To be empty of me is to be full of the divine, whatever that might mean to each of us. When we empty ourselves of the type of pride that pushes others' kindness away, when we empty ourselves of our rigid opinions, our defensive egos, we do not become nothing. Instead, we become like the paper, a vessel for the entire universe. We become full of the cosmos. This shift in perspective transforms our suffering. If I am a private, separate self, my death is a tragedy. But if I am the cloud, and the rain, and my neighbor, I am merely changing form. The paper may be burned, but the energy and the atoms return to the earth and the smoke to the heavens. Nothing is truly ever lost. And finally, we are told that your mind is also in the paper. Because the paper cannot be perceived without a perceiver. The observer and the observed are one. This is the ultimate call to mindfulness. How we treat a single sheet of paper reflects how we treat the world, how we treat ourselves, how we treat those who challenge us, how we think of the lost. If we see the paper as a mere commodity to be wasted, we are living in a state of spiritual blindness. If we see it as a miracle, a manifestation of the sun and a synthesis of the clouds, we move through the entire world with reverence. The sermon of the paper is a call to live rightly. It asks us to look at the person sitting next to us, the meal on our table, or the clothes on our back, and see the clouds and the sunshine within them. It asks us to stop seeking the sacred in some far-off heaven and to start finding it in the fibers of the ordinary. And as we move back into the world today, let us carry this sheet of paper in our hearts. Let it be a reminder that you are never alone. That you are made of the stars and the rain. And that your every breath is a collaborative act involving the entire universe. The next time you pick up a book, or a letter, or a piece of junk mail, say thank you. Feel the weightlessness of the clouds. Feel the warmth of the sun. Listen to the rustling whisper of the forest. And remember, you do not just exist. You interbe. And in that interbeing, you are home. Blessed be. Please rise for our